Story time about when my mom caught me doing it with my best friend.
I was 16 at the time, and there was this new boy that moved in across the street from us. He was super cute, and I noticed him right away. My parents were super strict. I wasn't allowed to have a boyfriend or even any guy friends, and I knew right away that I wanted to at least become this guy's friend because he was so cute. So one day I told my mom, hey, why don't we take cookies or something to welcome the new neighbors in town? And my mom was like, that's a great idea. So we end up going over and we meet them. They're really nice. And the cute boy comes downstairs and he tells his mom he's going to go to Bible study. Well, when we get home, I tell my mom, hey, you know what? Maybe I should join a Bible study group too. And my mom was like, great idea. She even told me to go ask him about it since he had mentioned it. One day he's mowing the lawn, so I decided to go talk to him and ask him about the Bible study group. He actually ended up taking me there that same day and we had a fun class. Over the next few weeks, we became really, really good friends. Best friends. We told each other everything. So my neighbor, I'll call him Curtis, we're really good friends at this point, but we were always attracted to each other. But because we were in Bible study together and our parents were very religious, we kind of tried to stay away from anything. One day we're in my house chilling in my room because I knew my mom wouldn't be home for a while, so I told him to just come upstairs. We ended up eating Pop-Tarts and watching a Netflix show. The whole time I was mustering the courage to tell him that I really liked him because I really felt that I wanted to be honest with him instead of just lying to him, and the whole reason why I even got into the Bible study group was to be with him, or at least spend time with him. So finally, I just blurted it out. I said, I like you, and I like you like a lot. He just stares at me blankly. He doesn't know what to say, and I could tell that he was kind of nervous. So I said, do you like me too? He said, yes, you know that I do. And then we started making out. This was the first time I'd ever been kissed, and it was the first time I'd ever had a boy in my room by myself. I kept thinking my mom could come home at any moment, so I told him that he should go home. Suddenly, we're on my bed, and we're doing things that I'd never done before. Suddenly, my door swings open, and guess who it is? My mom. So my mom swings the door open, and she sees us on my bed doing stuff. Of course, I'm mortified. I'm super embarrassed. I'm also embarrassed because I know how she's going to react in front of him. My mom, of course, just starts yelling her head off. Then we walk over to his house. She proceeds to tell his mom what we did. And then 5 minutes later, my dad walks into their house. I was really afraid of my dad. So now we're in their kitchen and his parents and my parents are just staring us down and telling us that what we did was completely wrong. Then my dad starts saying that we need to get married. I can tell Curtis is freaking out. Of course, I'm freaking out too. His parents actually agree that we should get married. Thankfully, my mom was completely against it and she said, absolutely not, they're too young. I literally felt like I was dying. I was obviously grounded for months, couldn't go anywhere, I couldn't do anything, and I obviously didn't speak to Curtis again. Then my mom tells me that Curtis and his family actually moved away. My heart was completely broken. A few years later in college, I contacted him through Facebook. We met up and we've been together ever since. I knew that our connection back then was super strong and it is now.
Am I wrong for not wanting to split expenses proportional to income? I live with my boyfriend in a flat he owns. Fully paid off, his father gave it to him. The whole building was built 6 years ago and it's in a very popular area. I pay my boyfriend half of the market rate rent, which we update every year by looking at how much the flats are being rented out for in the building complex, which is a lot of money, but I agreed to it. Other than this, we did everything else 50-50 in the past. I got a new job with significant pay increase and now my boyfriend says we should start splitting expenses proportional to income because that's fair. Ew! Drop him! What the heck? 50-50 is easy. That's like the right moral way to do things. Ew. He got a free flat. He got a free apartment and he's asking what's fair or not. I told him I don't think it's fair that I should start paying for more just because I got a new job and nothing else changed. I already paid him rent, enough rent that would get me a same size flat a few streets away, so it's more than fair to him. He had some, in my opinion, very weak arguments and accused me of ripping him off. That's when I told him that under no circumstances we will split expenses proportional to income. Now that I've calmed down a bit, I'm worried whether I'm in the wrong, especially since my best friend told me that this is how they do it with her boyfriend too, and my boyfriend owning the flat is irrelevant here. So, am I the asshole?
So I can't really tell if it's romantic or not that my boyfriend put me up as the prize to a race without me knowing. To give some backstory, we were dating on and off for about 1.5 years, and we'll just go ahead and call this man Brad. We met in health class and he was kind of an a-hole, but I honestly fell so hard for him. Well, around this time, he sold his old car and got a beautiful 2015 black Charger. And let me tell y'all, I would feel like such a baddie when he'd come pick me up. And when I moved an hour away, he would still come pick me up weekly and take me to nice hotels. Well, one day he was talking to me about how obsessed his friends are with me, which I thought was so strange, but he was like, yeah, I showed them your picture. They all think you are so fine. And I guess they all talked about how they wish they could have a chance with someone like me and blah, blah, blah. And that's when he decided to enter his fancy little car into a race. He asked me if I wanted to come see him perform, but we were in the dead of winter, so I was like, probably not. That's when he started begging me and told me that the prize was really important. So I decided to go. So when I finally saw him, I was like, hey, so what exactly is the prize? And he gave me the weirdest look and he was like, babe, you know how all my friends think you're hot, right? I was like, I mean, sure. And he goes, well, I told them whoever wins gets to be your boyfriend. So I was like, WTF, Brad? Why would you do that? And he just looks at me and goes, don't worry, I'll win. And I was like, well, you better. So I literally stood out there in the cold watching a race that I could barely see. There was someone really tall in front of me. My heart almost dropped several times because I kept hearing Brad is gonna lose. And then I pushed the guy in front of me out of the way and saw Brad cross the finish line. One of his friends actually came up to us after the race and claimed that Brad cheated to win. He was probably just a sore loser, but we celebrated the rest of the night.
Am I the asshole for giving one daughter more inheritance? My husband and I have 2 daughters. Let's call them Emma, 32 female, and Sam, 29 female. My husband died of a stroke 2 years ago, and he left everything to me. I'm rewriting my will as well in case something happens to us. Originally, everything was split 50-50 between the girls, but now I'm splitting about 70-20 in favor of Emma. Emma has ADHD and isn't doing great in life. In those days, everyone just assumed she was lazy and she didn't get the help children get today until she was in her teens. She just finished high school and is working at a retail store as a stalker. It's backbreaking and she doesn't have much in the way of savings or anything. Her car was her father's when he passed. Sam works in tech as a project manager and her husband is a doctor. They live in $1 million house and have 2 kids. I'm not worried about Sam. She's always been very capable and excelled at everything. She was always the overachiever and I don't think she needs help financially. Her and her husband probably take home $500,000 after taxes a year. I want Emma to inherit the house and the car when I pass. I think it will be good for her because she can live in it or sell it and buy another one. Sam will be fine and her husband have several houses and a summer home. But Sam is angry with me because I've made it clear that Emma gets most of our belongings. The bank savings and stocks will go to Sam, but if I live to 80s, she won't have too much. Probably 20 to 30% of what the house is worth. But I think it's fair because she's doing much better. Sam called me to yell at me saying I'm favoring Emma. I reminded her of how much worse off Emma is than her, but she said that since they were both her daughters, she should get things 50-50 or it's favoritism. She said I should will half of the inheritance to her children for college funds, but I reminded her she makes more and she can save for them. I told her it's not about favoring Emma over her, but Emma is worse off and she will be fine, which resulted in her hanging up and refusing to come over for Christmas. Am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for telling someone they're selfish for asking a 22-year-old to become a child's guardian? My 22 female boyfriend, Malcolm, 22 male, has a half-sister, Elena, 12 female. They have the same dad and he's not involved in their lives. Their moms became close friends and they were raised seeing one another. Malcolm's mom moved abroad a couple of years ago. Elena's mom, Sandra, was diagnosed with cancer last year. She went through treatment, but it's been determined that there's nothing they can do but make her comfortable. Sandra will pass sometime this year. She has no other family. Malcolm has spent a lot of time helping care for Elena, driving her to school, making them meals, etc. Recently, Malcolm sat me down. He said that Sandra asked to speak to him. She said she understood if the answer was no, but asked for him to take on custody of Elena sooner rather than later. That way she could adjust to him being her guardian before she passes. Malcolm would move in with them, and Sandra had a sizable life insurance policy and an accountant to help him care for Elena. To my surprise, he agreed to all of this without consulting me. I pointed this out and he said we've only been together for 6 months. I asked, didn't he feel too young for all of this? He said sort of, but he'd do it for Elena. Without further discussion, he subleased his apartment and moved in with Sandra and Elena. Saturday, I stopped by to pick up Malcolm for lunch. He hadn't returned from work yet, so I was waiting with Sandra. We were making small talk. She mentioned how grateful she was for Malcolm and that he was a sweet boy. I asked if he was really her only option. I mentioned his mom. Sandra said Elena is losing enough. She doesn't want to force her to move abroad on top of everything. She also doesn't feel right asking Malcolm's mom to move back. I said I found the whole thing a little selfish. Malcolm is only 22. He shouldn't be tied down raising a child. Sandra got defensive and said she wished she didn't have to ask him. Plus, he said yes. I asked what else was he supposed to say. Sandra told me I was upsetting her and asked me to leave. Malcolm called me later, screaming at me. He said that I upset Sandra. I said I was trying to defend him and point out options she may not have thought of. Malcolm told me to butt out and to get on board with this or walk away. He hasn't spoken to me since. I saw Elena at the mall on Sunday and she ignored me. My mom told me I screwed up big time. Am I the asshole?